Welcome to the College Rivals podcast, where it's all about heated rivalries within track and field and weekly innovative discussions on how we revolutionize the sport of track and field into a professional league on par with the NBA and the NFL. And now, your host whose favorite thing in life is to disrupt society for the good, Simon Bowen. Welcome to College Rivals, where rivalries begin and never ends.
Today is the first of a three-part discussion with Rich Kenah. Today, we discuss Georgetown and the rivalries.
Hello, team of Rivals, sporting fans, track and field boys and girls. This is Simon Bowen, alongside my co-hosts Toucher Woodward Sumner and Michael Jasper. My guest today is Rich Kenah, a graduate of Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., and a teammate of our very own co-host, Michael Jasper, producer of the College Rivals podcast. Rich also earned his degree in business administration with a focus on international marketing. Rich is currently the CEO of Atlanta Track Club. This mission-focused nonprofit organization operates more than 30 events and programs annually, including the world's biggest 10K. With more than 30,000 members, Atlanta Track Club is the second largest running organization in the United States. He oversaw the 2020 U.S. Olympic team trials marathon in Atlanta. Rich, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for that very generous introduction.
This should be fascinating because we have someone on the 144. Jesus Christ, we need to get these sprinters in. For next season, definitely. We'll have some sub-9s in the club. Mike, over to you.
So, yeah, I mean, Rich, you were, we'll go back a little bit first. So kind of go through your career a little bit chronological order. And so for everyone out there, I was a year ahead of Rich. So I graduated in 91. You graduated in 92.
Correct.
When you decided to come to Georgetown, I know you were highly recruited. A roommate who I had, Joe Pierce, we tried to get Derek Atkins and stuff, and we were never successful as hosts of recruits. So we're glad we didn't have you. I don't know what we did, but I remember, you winning Gold Coast and things and highly touted as a recruit. And so when you made the decision to come to Georgetown, talk a little bit about why you came to Georgetown. What was the decision? What was the thought process to bring you to Georgetown?
It's a great question, Mike. And by the end of my senior year, I think I was a reasonably good track athlete. But early on, I was not. So Coach Gaggs, head coach at Georgetown during our time there, really was not recruiting me very heavily, to be honest with you. And it was, I was considering Syracuse, another Big East school. Due respect to Syracuse, thank God I didn't go there. Yeah. UVA, Rutgers, William and Mary, one or two other schools. And it was like March of my senior year, and my high school coach sat down with me and said, "Hey, before you make your decision, are there any schools that you sort of would like to take one more swing at?" And I said, "Well, Georgetown, I've reached out a bunch of times, and I had one call with the coach, but never really went anywhere. I just don't think I'm good enough." And he said, "Well, let me try." So he called up Coach Gaggs, and Gaggs called me up. And Gaggs is sort of the only way Gaggs could do, with maybe some expletives sort of mixed in there. Just, you want to come on a visit down here? So the next week, paid my own way down there, flew into National Airport at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I remember Gaggs was standing there, and it was like, 7:30 in the morning. It was like an early flight. And I didn't even stay over when I came. It was just a day visit. And Gaggs just read me the riot act for making him get up and get to the airport. So short story long, when I got home that night, so I flew back that night, my dad picked me up and he said, "Hey, what'd you think?" And I said, that's where I belong. That's where I want to be. And between Gags making a commitment to me and Mike, how he makes those sorts of commitments around being a student athlete.
Right.
And my dad seeing that this was a place that I thought I could excel, we made the decision. And aside from marrying my wife, Sherry, who was a Villanova graduate, by the way, Tasha.
You made a mind.
Aside marrying her, going to Georgetown was the second best decision I ever made in my life.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. And your decision to go there, like one of the things that we discussed a lot was when I got recruited, Tasha always says we got recruited before the internet, which is true. So my only exposure to Georgetown was seeing DMR break the world record at Penn's and seeing Troutman break the high school national record. And they had announced while he was running, he was going to Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got there, I remember Villanova was a rival like day one. And do you recall, was it the upperclassmen who said, hey, don't lose to Villanova? We don't lose Syracuse in the big. I mean, I'm trying to, one of the things is how did that rivalry sort of generate? Was it from day one or is it something over time? You said, I can't stand this guy. and he's never going to be.
So to your point, there was not the internet and I was a track geek. The way that I would get my news, and I presumably the way a lot of people did, was track and field news. And seeing the images from the Penn relays of let's say 87, where you've got Georgetown, Arkansas, Villanova, I think Mount St. Mary's was in there too, sort of all sort of leaning at the line.
Right.
And sort of we knew when we got there that there was an expectation that we were going to go to the line with those schools every year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right, Mike. I think it was the upperclassmen who sort of instilled that sense of the expectation, and then Gags, that sense of pride that when you put on that Georgetown uniform at any time of the year, but specifically at the Penn relays, that you were not only representing yourself and the team now, but decades worth of history and tradition.
Yes. And mentioning Penn's, I don't know if it was your experience as well. It seemed to me that the biggest time, at the time we had to perform the best was Penn relays. To me, the Big East Conference meet was not be arrogant, but it seemed like a foregone conclusion that as a team we would win because we had field events with jumpers, with everything. And only a few people qualified for nationals, and that was great. But it seemed like the intensity and the reputation of the school was mostly geared around Penn relay. Do you agree with that?
100%.
Okay.
And we all felt it, right? So when you got there, when you were staying at the Penn Tower, when you're in the paddock, when you hear the announcer, what was his name? Was it Jack
O'Reilly?
Right. When I walk into, and I don't make it back very often, but when I walk into Franklin Field right now, all of those memories come flooding back, and your heart races, and you feel that the butterflies in your stomach, because that's what we were trained to do, to be ready there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Why do you think, when I look back at, or especially as we were on a relay together, and I think we only lost the 2-mile relay, me and you, Ethan, and Steve Holm. I think we only lost our last race together, Penn's. Or maybe our junior year, my junior year, your sophomore year at NCAAs. We took fourth. And I think that was your sophomore year, I believe. I think we were fourth. So I remember Gags threatened to make us walk home. After the race, he was in the bar and lit me up with the bunch of expletives. Because I was the last one to come out of drug testing. And he just launched into me. We were fourth. And then we went on to win Penn's, Texas Relays. Next year, we won NCAAs, won Texas. Then we lost to Penn. But each of those times we ran against Arkansas, and we never considered them as a big rivalry, even though they were really good. I recall, didn't Arkansas?
There was that rivalry there, but it was not a, two Catholic schools from the Northeast trying to beat the bejesus out of each other.
Right. That's true. Two Catholic schools from the Northeast.
And I'm trying to remember all the years, and we're dating ourselves here, but we won Penn 4x8 with you anchoring.
Right.
And then the next year we lost. So now it's to Villanova with Mike Seeker anchoring, right?
No, I beat him as the anchor.
Okay, so then was it Tasha's husband Brad that?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Yeah. They call him the pit bull.
Or an anchorlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
To respect to Tasha and Brad and the rest of the Villanova team, I think that was the year that Villanova loaded up the 4x8 and did not run the 4x15. It did not run the MR. And I remember gangs walking around saying, last time I remember it's called the Penn Relays, not the Penn Relay.
Yes, I think I remember hearing that too.
Yeah.
Gags was a little livid that day. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting, Mike, that you were talking about Arkansas because, like, for us, for Villanova, Arkansas was a rival, especially in cross country. Nationally, of course, Georgetown was as well. But on the guy side, Rich, did you run cross? So did you have different rivals on the cross side?
Yeah, we did. I wasn't good enough to be a sort of a scorer on the cross country team, but in cross country, it was more sort of a Villanova. It was more of a Providence, Arkansas, and Georgetown thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was. Our cross country team was pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember that they're always good.
Naksha, did you ran cross country, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I was practice squad.
But it was only 5K back then. I could run cross. I don't know.
Oh, really?
It was 5K for the women.
Genius.
So
as long as we get George Mason in cross country, we were good.
Oh man, Mason is it's very targeted in terms of how we approach, especially Penn relays. Most times when we go to Penn relays, Coach Cook, it's usually planned. We know we can't win everything, and if you notice, Rich, when we do put together a team, it is a championship team. It's kind of like what Gags were complaining about. I don't think we try to spread our wings 4x feet. We don't do that. We only enter, it's like the Lakers, right? It's championship or bust. We only enter a relay team unless we can win. So it's always interesting how we approach the Penn relays.
Yeah, we went for multiple, but
and with that, I know you probably want to spend too much time on Penn relays, but I was thinking about this recently, sort of in the world in which we live today, and how this would have played back then. If Mike, if you remember correctly, there was one year where so Gags had a recruiting philosophy that he only recruited American high school track and field athletes.
right.
So we would go to the Penn relays. We were super proud of the fact that we were essentially, in quotes, an all-American team competing against what we would say an international all-star team from other schools.
Yes.
And one year we all wore American flag socks.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That's right. That was my junior or senior year.
Uh-huh.
And thinking back, was that obnoxious? Probably.
Probably. I mean, if they had social media and people knew that, I think
Mhm.
it been a big issue.
Well, that would have been that would be a cheap shot at Villanova and George Mason. I know Nova get a lot of their athletes sometimes from Ireland.
Yep, it can.
Yeah.
And we are heavily African and Jamaican focused. And that's why in 94, which we still have the national record in the 4x8, because all four of us ran 7:15. All four of us were from Jamaica. So every now and then, if it's full All-American, it does gives you an opportunity, like what the Villanova DMR team did in 1988.
Right.
When they broke the world record, they established the college record, right? And also established the American record by winning the DMR. So every now and then, those unique opportunities do come up. But it's an interesting socks phenomenon, Rich, that you brought up.
Yeah.
It does sometimes puts you in this type of unique situation. So while you guys were wearing your All-American socks and all of you were from the United States, every now and then it does happen to us. Again, this is somewhat targeted, as I said to you, how sometimes Coach Cook put the team together, because the recruitment is usually done mainly if they're bringing in international from Africa and Jamaica.
Rich, we know your college career was amazing, but post-collegiately, you also ran. So tell us about, we always like to ask, and we talk about this often ourselves, the day your college eligibility ended. Like, what was that like? Give it, like, step back into like that, either the NCAAs or that USATF championships when you knew you wouldn't be wearing that Georgetown uniform again.
Well, before I answer the question, I want to set the record straight. Mike was a better and more accomplished track and field athlete at Georgetown than I was. If we put IC4A and Big East titles up against each other, he had probably twice as many as I did. Way more consistent. I had some really good peaks, but I was generally pretty average. So, but to your question, so I graduated in 92, and that was an Olympic trials year. And I can remember going to the Olympic trials and trying to figure out whether I should wear, because it's after the college season, whether I should wear the Georgetown singlet or wear a different singlet. And for me, I'm not sure why I did. I was in a big hurry to consider myself a professional athlete. So I wore a Nike singlet. And hey, due respect to Nike, that didn't have any sort of deep meaning, that we were just paid to wear a logo. And that was sort of the beginning, if you will, and maybe we were going with the question, sort of the transition from being part of a true team, atmosphere, to being a true individual athlete chasing your own goals. And one of the things that one of the main reasons why I have fond memories of the time at Georgetown was around the fact that we were a team. And Mike references that Gags took great pride in having a full team at the Big East Championships that consisted of distance runners and sprinters and jumpers and throwers, in a way that was a little bit different than most of the other Big East schools.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Rivals podcast with Simon Bowen and his team of rivals. Please visit thecollegerivals.com for more information. And be sure to like and follow College Rivals Track and Field on Facebook. If you have any comments or would like to suggest topics for upcoming episodes, please email us at hello@thecollegerivals.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.